SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease joins us now live from New York. Sherwin, a very good afternoon to you. I mean, when you look at all of these, nearly half of these 66 international organizations are United Nations bodies. Give us a sense how UN officials and even diplomats are responding, especially when you consider that some UN peacekeeping missions may be affected here.
Well, we are waiting, Unati, for an official response from the United Nations. They've now had, since late yesterday afternoon, New York time, to grapple with this sweeping announcement, a culling, if you will, by the United States in terms of its withdrawal from multilateral institutions writ large. Over half of the 66 you mentioned are organizations aligned with the United Nations system, among them things like the UN Entity for Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women, essentially known as UN Women, UN Energy, the UN Democracy Fund, the UN Conference on Trade and Development, the UN Population Fund, the UN System's Chief Executive Board for Coordination. A lot of these are deliberative bodies where the United States plays a deliberative role. But if you take, for example, the Peace Building Commission, for example, essentially a deliberative body in the United Nations that supports the work of the UN Security Council, which is the preeminent body that deals with issues of international peace and security. All permanent 5 members of the Peace Building Commission have a designated seat, a guaranteed seat on that commission. And so it seeks to undermine the very multilateral processes the United States, by virtue of the history of this organization, is a member of. And so this is essentially what America First looks like, the unilateral approach by the United States, where multilateralism aligns with interests that benefit the United States. That is where they are saying they will continue to engage. I just got off an interesting discussion, an interview with Daniel Forti. He is the head of UN affairs at the International Crisis Group think tank. This is how he responded to a question about what this means moving forward. Let's watch.
The U.S. withdrawal from about 66 multilateral bodies, both UN and non-UN, further adds credence to the approach that Washington has taken to international cooperation, which is essentially my way or the highway. In comparison to past U.S. administrations, the Trump, which very much supported international cooperation, even if it didn't always agree with the vast majority of how member states wanted to move multilateral institutions, the U.S. has used its political and financial leverage in the multilateral system to very much attempt to shape the system and the direction of cooperation towards a very narrow set of priorities aligned with the current administration's national interest. We've seen that this has taken place in financial issues, on support for the Sustainable Development Goals, and while the 66 bodies that the U.S. decided to suspend cooperation with are varying in terms of material impact, effect on international law, climate and environmental cooperation, the messaging is quite unequivocal that the U.S. will only support multilateralism on its terms.
Unati, Daniel Forti also tells me that the U.S. will have a weakened multilateral footprint, will not be able to engage in how the organizations operate, how they reform. Withdrawing actually makes it harder to shape constructive outcomes. So America First seems to be increasingly isolating the United States from multilateral fora here at the UN.
I'm going to ask us to pause our discussion. I want to take our viewers to Washington. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, of course, is reporting in from New York for us.